I remember the moment exactly. My phone buzzed with an email notification just as I was about to take a sip of my morning coffee. I swiped open my inbox, expecting a confirmation of the job I had nailed 2 days ago. Instead, the subject line glared at me. Termination notice. My heart stopped. We regret to inform you that your employment is terminated effective immediately due to identity fraud and impersonation at your recent interview. My coffee spilled across my desk. My head snapped up toward the muted office lights. The HR manager stood at the end of the hallway. Her face was pale. "Chloe, can we talk?" she asked in a voice that cracked when she used my name. I blinked and rose, my legs like jelly. The corridor stretched out, empty, but for me and her. She handed me a file stamped confidential. Inside, there were 2 sets of fingerprints. They matched mine, but one set was taken from a stranger's driver's license photo. A stranger who looked exactly like me. I stared at the printouts. "How is this possible?" She swallowed. "We believe your twin sister, Emily, applied for the job using your identity. We found forged signatures, falsified references, everything." Her words echoed off the walls. Forged signatures. My hands shook. I sank onto a plastic chair. How could the person who shared my blood do this to me? We were always so close, always interchangeable.
My phone buzzed again.
A message from my fiancé. "Can we talk?" He was at home. I hadn't told him the job offer was rescinded. Not yet. I closed my eyes. This wasn't about losing a job. This was about betrayal. About someone stealing not just my opportunity, but my very identity. How many times did she do this? I asked the HR manager. She hesitated. "We think it's the first time here, but there might be others." The local court issued a restraining order for identity theft last year. Not sure if it was connected. I felt a cold knot tighten in my chest. Last year. Did she? When Emily moved to Seattle, she told me she was starting fresh, a change she desperately needed. I trusted her. I sent her care packages, birthday cards, video calls. But seeing the printouts convinced me she'd built a parallel life with my name. Why would she do it? To hurt me? To prove she was more capable? How do you forgive someone who doesn't think they did anything wrong? My phone lit up again. This time it was a text from HR. "Please hand back your ID badge and access key. We'll call you about your final paycheck." I tapped out a reply. "When can I leave my things?" They never waited. An hour later, I was out on the street with a cardboard box of personal belongings. My exit interview was replaced by silence. My cubicle empty except for a half-unpacked photo of me and Emily at age 6, climbing a tree we swore was the tallest in the backyard. I clutched the picture frame in my arms, frozen outside the building. A crowd of commuters streamed past. They looked right through me. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, still in my interview suit, scrolling through what HR had sent. There were security camera snapshots from the interview day, 2 Chloes entering the building together. 2 Chloes walking into the waiting room. The second one, Emily, gave a slight nod to the receptionist before my interviewer then told me, "You seem nervous, Chloe, but you have all the qualifications. Welcome aboard." I pressed my fingers to the glass tabletop, staring at the faint reflection of myself. My earrings, my watch, the subtle way I tucked my hair behind my ear were replicated perfectly. It was me and it wasn't. What kind of person betrays their own twin? What made her believe she had the right to take my life apart? The phone rang. I flinched. It was Emily. Her voice on the line was calm, controlled. "You got fired?" she asked, like she was checking the weather. I stared at the caller ID. Emily W. I swallowed. "This isn't a joke. What the hell did you do?" There was a pause. Then she laughed, a cold, quiet thing. "I needed the job, Chloe. You always had everything handed to you. I wanted to see how it felt to be you." I felt my knees buckle. See how it felt. "You ruined my career, my reputation." She sighed. "Isn't this what we wanted? To prove I could be as successful as you? Maybe even more?" Tears rose in my eyes, but I forced them back. "You're sick. I know you'll find another job. Maybe this will be a lesson for you. Maybe it'll make you stronger." I pressed my hand over the mouthpiece. "You're not my sister." Her laughter echoed as she hung up. In that moment, I realized my life had split in two. There was the Chloe who walked out of the office, stunned and betrayed. And the Chloe who was still inside, the one who lost everything. I didn't know which one I'd become. Why would someone I love do this? Why would she trade her own soul for a name that wasn't even hers? I looked at the photo again. Emily's eyes gleamed back at me from the frame. I ran a finger across her smiling face. This was more than identity theft. This was war. I grew up believing Emily and I were two halves of the same person. We were born 7 minutes apart. I came first, she always reminded me, and for 26 years, we'd been inseparable. Identical faces, identical voices, even identical mannerisms that our parents couldn't tell apart. The girls, everyone called us. Never Chloe and Emily, just the girls. We shared everything, clothes, friends, secrets. When Emily got her heart broken at 16, I cried with her. When I landed my first internship at 22, she celebrated like it was her own achievement. We had this unspoken understanding that what hurt one of us hurt both. Or so I thought. Looking back now, I can see the cracks. Emily always had this need to prove herself, to be better than me at something. Anything. In high school, if I got an A on a test, she'd study twice as hard to get an A+. If I made varsity soccer, she'd train until she made captain. Healthy competition. Our mom called it. Sisters pushing each other to excel. But it never felt healthy to me. It felt desperate. After college, we both moved to Portland. I got my marketing degree and found steady work at a consulting firm. Emily bounced between temp jobs, always complaining that employers didn't appreciate her potential. She'd come over to my apartment almost every night, venting about unfair bosses and incompetent coworkers. "They don't see what I'm capable of," she'd say, pacing around my living room. "If they just gave me a real chance." I'd make us tea and listen, offering advice about networking and interview techniques. I even helped her polish her resume more times than I could count. But nothing ever stuck. She'd get hired, work for a few months, then find reasons to quit or get let go. "Maybe you're being too picky," I suggested once gently. Her eyes flashed. "Easy for you to say. Everything comes naturally to you." That stung. Nothing came naturally to me. I worked 60-hour weeks, took evening classes to improve my skills, sent dozens of applications before landing each position. But Emily saw what she wanted to see. The first real warning sign came 6 months ago. Emily had been staying at my place after getting evicted from her studio apartment. I came home from work to find her sitting at my desk, my laptop open in front of her. "What are you doing?" I asked. She slammed the screen shut. "Nothing. Just checking email." "On my computer?" "Mine's broken." I was just. She stood up, blocking my view of the desk. I was looking at job postings. I should have pressed harder. Should have demanded to know why she was being so secretive. Instead, I let it go. We were sisters. We shared everything. 3 weeks later, Emily announced she was moving to Seattle for a fresh start. She'd found an apartment, she said, and had some job prospects lined up. "That's great," I told her though. Part of me felt abandoned. "What kind of work?" "Marketing stuff. Similar to what you do." She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I think the change will be good for me." We hugged goodbye at the train station. She felt tense in my arms, like she was holding something back. "Promise you'll call," I said. "Of course. We're twins, aren't we?" For the first month, she did call. Regular check-ins about her new city, her apartment hunting, the interviews she was going on. She seemed happier than she'd been in years. "I think I found my calling," she told me during one late-night conversation. "These companies up here, they really get me." I was proud of her. Finally, Emily was finding her way. But gradually, the calls became less frequent. When I tried reaching her, she'd take days to respond with brief texts, "Busy with work stuff," or "We'll call soon." I told myself she was just settling in, making new friends, building her career. I gave her space. Now, I realized she was using that space to study me, to learn my mannerisms, my professional history, my way of speaking in interviews. She was preparing to become me. The night before my own job interview, the one that would end in disaster. Emily called unexpectedly. "How are you feeling about tomorrow?" she asked. Nervous, but excited. This could be the break I've been waiting for. "Tell me about the company again. What exactly do they do?" I spent 20 minutes walking her through everything. The company culture, the role requirements, even the specific projects I'd be working on. She asked detailed questions, took notes. I could hear her scribbling. "You're going to nail it," she said when I finished. "You always do." Her voice had this strange quality I couldn't place. Like she was memorizing my words instead of just listening to them. "Thanks, Sam. I really hope so. Trust me, tomorrow's going to change everything." She was right about that part. The next morning, I woke up with a splitting headache. My interview was at 10, but by 8:30, I could barely stand without feeling dizzy. Food poisoning, maybe, or a stomach bug. I called the company to reschedule, explaining my situation to the receptionist. "Actually," she said, "we already had someone call this morning to confirm the appointment. Are you feeling better now?" My blood went cold. "Someone called to confirm?" "Yes, Chloe Martinez. That's you, right?" I hung up and tried calling Emily. Straight to voicemail. By the time I made it to the office 3 hours late, security wouldn't let me upstairs. There had been an incident, they said. Identity fraud. The police had been called. How do you process the moment when you realize your own reflection has been stolen? When someone with your face has walked into your future and claimed it as their own? I stood on that sidewalk, holding my cardboard box of belongings, and felt something inside me break. Not just trust or love, something deeper. The part of me that believed family meant safety.
Emily didn't just take my job.
She took my sense of who I was. I needed answers. 3 days after getting fired, I drove to Seattle. Emily's apartment was in a trendy neighborhood I could never afford. Exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place that screamed success. I buzzed her unit. "Chloe?" Her voice crackled through the intercom, surprised but not panicked. "What are you doing here? We need to talk." The door clicked open. She was waiting in her doorway when I reached the 3rd floor, arms crossed, wearing a designer blazer I'd never seen before. She looked exactly like me, down to the way she tilted her head when she was thinking. "You look awful," she said. I pushed past her into the apartment. It was beautiful. Hardwood floors, modern furniture, fresh flowers on the dining table. Everything I dreamed of having once I got promoted. Nice place. "How do you afford it on a temp worker's salary?" Emily shrugged. "I got lucky."
Found.
"A roommate." I spun around. "Stop lying to me. I know what you did." "What I did?" She closed the door and leaned against it. "I went to an interview. I got a job. Just like you've done dozens of times. Using my name, my credentials, my entire identity." Her laugh was sharp. "Your identity? Come on, Chloe. We're identical twins. We've been sharing identities our whole lives. Remember when you took my SATs because I had the flu? That was different. That was helping you. This was stealing from me. Was it?" She moved to the kitchen, started making coffee, like this was a casual visit. "Maybe I was helping you too. Showing you what it feels like to not have everything handed to you." My hands clenched into fists. Nothing was handed to me. I worked for everything I had. "Did you?" She turned, her eyes cold. "Really? Because from where I'm standing, you got the good grades, the college acceptance, the job offers, the perfect boyfriend. What did I get? Your leftovers." "That's not true." She set down the coffee pot with a bang. "When we were kids who got picked for the school play, you. Who got asked to prom first,
You.
who got the scholarship to state,
You.
and all because you were born 7 minutes earlier." Emily, that's insane. Being born first doesn't. Doesn't what? Give you special privileges? Because that's exactly what it did. Her voice rose. "You were always the responsible one, the successful one, the one mom and dad were proud of. I was just the backup copy." I stared at her, seeing my own face twisted with years of hidden resentment. "So you decided to destroy my life?" "I decided to take what should have been mine anyway." She grabbed her purse from the counter. Do you know how many times I've been passed over for jobs because they said I seemed unstable or unfocused? Do you know how many times I watched you succeed while I failed at the exact same things? Because you give up. Every time something gets hard, you quit.
No.
She stepped closer, and I could smell her perfume, the same one I wore. I quit because I was never playing on a level field. But last week, I finally got to see what it was like to be you. To walk into a room and have people take me seriously from the first word. They weren't taking you seriously. They were taking me seriously. You were wearing my reputation like a costume. Emily smiled and it chilled me. And it felt amazing. I looked around the apartment again, really looked. There were photos on the mantelpiece, photos of me that I'd never taken. Pictures of me at places I'd never been, with people I'd never met. Emily, what is this place? This is my life. The life I should have had. I walked to the photos, picked one up. It showed me, or Emily pretending to be me, at what looked like a company Christmas party. She had her arm around a man in a suit, both of them smiling at the camera. Who is this? My boyfriend. Well, your boyfriend, technically. David from the marketing department. My stomach dropped. You're dating someone as me? We met at a networking event last month. He thinks I'm Chloe Martinez, marketing specialist from Portland. We've been seeing each other for 3 weeks. I felt the room spin. Emily, this is sick. This isn't just identity theft. You're living an entire fake life. It's not fake. It's the life I was meant to have. She took the photo from my hands. David loves me.
The real me.
He just thinks my name is Chloe. He doesn't love you. He loves the version of me you're pretending to be. Same difference. It's not. I grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at me. Emily, listen to yourself. This isn't sustainable. What happens when people find out? What happens when David learns the truth? She shrugged me off. Why would they find out? You're not exactly in a position to expose me, are you? Who's going to believe the fired, disgraced employee over the successful marketing professional? The casual cruelty in her voice hit me like a slap. You really don't care that you ruined my career. I didn't ruin anything. I borrowed it. And honestly, I think I'm doing a better job at being you than you ever did. I backed toward the door. You're insane.
I'm realistic.
Face it, Chloe. I'm the better version of us. I always was. I just needed the right opportunity to prove it. This isn't over. Yes, it is. She opened the door for me. Go home. Find another job. Rebuild your life. But don't try to tear down mine. I stood in the hallway, looking at my twin sister, my identical face staring back at me with contempt. I loved you, I whispered. I know, she said. That was your mistake. The door closed with a quiet click. I drove home in a daze, her words echoing in my head. She'd been planning this for months, maybe years. While I thought we were close, she was studying me, learning how to replace me. But she'd made one crucial error. She assumed I'd just disappear, that I'd accept her theft and move on. She didn't know me as well as she thought she did. The real Chloe Martinez was just getting started. A week later, my world collapsed completely. I was at my local coffee shop, nursing my third cup and scrolling through job listings on my laptop when my phone rang. My mom's contact photo flashed on the screen, her smiling face from last Christmas. Mom. Chloe, honey, I just got the strangest call. Her voice was tight with confusion. Someone from a law firm in Portland called about you defaulting on a business loan? My blood went cold. What business loan? They said you owed $47,000 on a loan you took out 6 months ago to start a consulting company. When I told them you never mentioned starting a business, they got very aggressive. They said they'd be in touch with collection proceedings. I closed my laptop so hard the people at the next table looked over. Mom, I never took out any loan. I've never even thought about starting my own business. That's what I figured, but honey. She paused. They had your social security number, your address, your employment history. Everything matched. Emily. My hands started shaking. I'm going to call you back, Mom. I hung up and immediately dialed my bank. After 20 minutes of holds and transfers, a customer service representative confirmed my worst fears. Yes, Ms. Martinez, we show a business loan approved on February 15th for $47,200. The payments are currently 60 days overdue. I didn't apply for that loan. The application was submitted online using your social security number and verified with your employment information from. Papers rustled. Hartwell Marketing Solutions. My old company, where Emily had spent weeks watching me work, learning my routines. Ma'am, if you're claiming identity theft, you'll need to file a police report and submit Form 14039 to the IRS. I hung up and called Emily. Straight to voicemail. That afternoon, more calls came. A credit card company about a maxed-out card I'd never applied for. A car dealership asking about late payments on a BMW lease. A collection agency demanding payment for medical bills from a plastic surgery consultation. Emily hadn't just stolen my job. She'd been systematically destroying my financial life for months. By evening, my credit score had dropped 300 points. I sat on my couch, surrounded by printed emails and bank statements, trying to piece together the scope of her betrayal. Every single fraudulent transaction had been carefully crafted to look legitimate, using my employment history, my address, even my mother's maiden name for security questions. How long had she been planning this? My fiancé Marcus came home from his shift at the hospital to find me crying over a pile of paperwork. Baby, what happened? I looked up at him, his kind eyes, his worried expression, and felt something break. Inside me, Emily destroyed me. I told him everything. The job interview, the fake identity, the loans, the credit cards. He listened without interrupting, his face growing darker with each revelation. We need to call the police, he said when I finished. And tell them what? That my identical twin sister is pretending to be me? They'll think I'm crazy. Chloe, this is serious fraud. Identity theft. They have to. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Sorry about the loan situation. Things got complicated. We'll sort it out soon. XO. I showed Marcus the message. He stared at it for a long moment. She's admitting to it. This is evidence. I typed back. Call me. Now. 3 disappeared, then disappeared. Then, can't talk right now. David's here. Maybe tomorrow? Who's David? Her fake boyfriend. The one who thinks he's dating me. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. She's living an entire second life as you. Before I could answer, my phone rang again. Unknown Seattle number. Hello. Is this Chloe Martinez? A man's voice, unfamiliar. Yes. This is David Chen. I think we need to talk. My heart stopped. Emily's boyfriend. I'm sorry, who? I've been dating someone who says she's you. But I just got a very strange call from someone claiming to be the real Chloe Martinez. She said you were impersonating her. I looked at Marcus, who was listening intently. Where are you? I asked. Outside Emily's apartment. She won't answer her door. Look, I know this sounds crazy, but could you prove you're really you? 30 minutes later, I was on a video call with David Chen. He was handsome in a nervous way, sitting in his car with Emily's building visible in the background. This is really weird, he said, studying my face through the screen. Tell me about it. You look exactly like her.
Exactly.
But, he tilted his head. You sound different. She has this way of talking that's more confident, assertive. That's because she's performing. She's acting like who she thinks I should be. David was quiet for a moment. I got a call this afternoon from someone claiming to be your sister. She said Emily had stolen your identity and was living in Seattle under false pretenses. Who called you? She said her name was Chloe Martinez. She had your phone number, your employment history, details about your life that Emily had told me. But she sounded different. Angrier. My stomach dropped. David, I am Chloe Martinez. I'm the real one. Then who called me earlier? The realization hit like ice water. Emily hadn't just stolen my identity to get a job and a boyfriend. She was actively impersonating me to destroy whatever relationships I might still have. She's calling people as me, I whispered to Marcus. She's pretending to be me to make me look crazy. David heard me through the phone. What do you mean? David listened carefully. Emily is my twin sister. She stole my identity, got fired from my job, took out loans in my name, and has been dating you while pretending to be me. Now she's calling people claiming to be me to make it look like I'm the one who's lying. This is... He rubbed his temples. This can't be real. Ask her something only I would know. Something from my childhood, my family. She'll have answers because she lived through it with me. But ask her about my scars, my birthmarks, things she couldn't fake. David was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was small. She has a birthmark on her left shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon. I lifted my shirt sleeve, showed him the identical mark on my shoulder through the camera. We're twins, David. Identical twins. The birthmark, the scars, everything physical. We share it all. Oh God.
He put his head in his hands.
How am I supposed to tell the difference? You can't. That's the point. That's why she chose this life to steal. But even as I said it, I realized the horrible truth. If David couldn't tell us apart, if Emily could forge documents and steal my financial information, if she could call people pretending to be me, how was anyone going to believe I was the real Chloe Martinez? 2 weeks after my conversation with David, I discovered Emily had been even busier than I thought. I was in the middle of filing my third police report, each one more futile than the last, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my best friend Sarah's name. Thank God you finally called me back, she said, her voice sharp with hurt. I've been trying to reach you for days. Sarah, what are you talking about? I never got any calls from you. Really? Her tone was ice cold. Then who did I have lunch with last Tuesday? Who sat in our usual booth at Mario's and told me you were moving to Seattle permanently and didn't want to keep in touch with anyone from your old life? My mouth went dry. Sarah, that wasn't me.
Right.
Of course it wasn't. Just like it wasn't you who called my work number and told my boss I was spreading lies about your character. What? I almost got written up, Chloe. HR had to sit me down for a formal meeting about professional conduct because someone claiming to be my best friend called them and said I was harassing you with false accusations about identity theft. I sank into my kitchen chair. Emily was systematically destroying every relationship I had. Sarah, listen to me very carefully. That was Emily. My twin sister has been impersonating me. She stole my identity, ruined my credit, and now she's calling everyone I know to isolate me. Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your twin sister? Chloe, come on. This is getting ridiculous. You've met Emily. Remember my birthday party last year? She was there. I remember meeting your sister, yes. But this elaborate story about her impersonating you? It sounds like something you'd make up to cover for. I don't know what you're going through, but... Sarah, please. You have to believe me. The person I had lunch with knew everything about our friendship. She knew about the time we got food poisoning at that sushi place. She knew about my breakup with Jake. Details I'd only told you. She even knew about the surprise party we threw for Emma's promotion. Of course she knew. Emily had been listening to my phone calls with Sarah for years, absorbing every detail of my friendships like she was studying for a test. If that was really your sister impersonating you, Sarah continued, then how did she know I was thinking about getting back together with my ex? How did she know about the promotion I haven't told anyone else about yet? My blood turned to ice. What promotion? The one at my firm. I was going to tell you this week, but when we had lunch, you already knew somehow. You even congratulated me and said you weren't surprised because I've been working so hard lately. Emily hadn't just been listening to my conversations. She'd been listening to Sarah's too.
But how?
Sarah, did you tell me this news over the phone? Recently? I left you a voicemail about it on Sunday night. Why? Sunday night. When I'd been out with Marcus at dinner. My phone had been charging at home. Did I call you back about the voicemail? Yeah, you called Tuesday morning and said you wanted to celebrate in person. That's why we met for lunch. Emily had been in my apartment. She'd listened to my voicemails, then called Sarah back pretending to be me. But that meant, Sarah, I need to ask you something important. When you had lunch with me, with her, did anything seem different? Anything at all? There was a pause. Now that you mention it, you seemed more confident than usual. More sure of yourself. And you were wearing this gorgeous blazer I'd never seen before. When I complimented it, you said it was new and that you were investing in yourself. The blazer from Emily's apartment. The one she'd worn when I confronted her. Sarah, I haven't bought new clothes in months. I can barely afford groceries right now. What do you mean you can barely afford groceries? You just got that promotion, didn't you? What promotion? The one you told me about. Senior marketing director at some tech company in Seattle. I closed my eyes. Emily wasn't just stealing my identity. She was creating an entirely fictional successful life for me, then making sure all my real friends knew about it. Sarah, I got fired 2 weeks ago. I'm unemployed. I'm broke. The person you had lunch with was my sister pretending to be me. The silence stretched so long, I thought she'd hung up. Chloe, she finally said, her voice gentle but firm. I think you need to talk to someone. A professional. This level of delusion, it's not healthy. I'm not delusional. Listen to yourself. You're claiming your twin sister stole your identity, got you fired, ruined your credit, and is now pretending to be you to your friends. And somehow she knows intimate details about conversations we've had, details about my life that only you would know. Because she's been spying on me. She's been in my apartment, listening to my voicemails, probably reading my texts. Or, Sarah interrupted, you're having some kind of breakdown and creating this elaborate fantasy to explain why your life is falling apart. The words hit me like a physical blow. Sarah, please. You've known me for 8 years. When have I ever lied to you? Never. That's what makes this so scary. She hung up. I sat in my kitchen, staring at my phone, realizing the full scope of Emily's plan. She hadn't just stolen my professional life. She was systematically replacing me in every relationship I had, while simultaneously making me look mentally unstable to anyone who might help me. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Can we talk when I get home? Got a weird call at the hospital today. My stomach clenched. She'd called Marcus's work. An hour later, Marcus walked through our door with the expression I'd been dreading, concerned, confused, a little frightened. Baby, we need to discuss what's been happening with you. What did she tell them? What did who tell them? I grabbed his hands. Emily. She called your hospital, didn't she? Pretending to be me. Marcus sat down across from me, his face careful and neutral. It was his doctor voice, the one he used with difficult patients. Chloe, Dr. Peterson pulled me aside today. He said he got a call from you asking about my schedule, wanting to know when I'd be working late this week. When he told you that information was confidential, you apparently became aggressive. You told him I'd been lying to you about working overtime and that you suspected I was having an affair. Marcus, I never called your hospital. I don't even know Dr. Peterson's direct number. You also apparently knew details about the Henderson case that I'd only discussed with you last night. Last night, when we talked in bed about his difficult patient. Emily couldn't have known about that unless... Marcus, has anyone been in our apartment when we're not here? What do you mean? I gave Emily a spare key months ago, when she was staying here after her eviction. Did I ever get it back? Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking. I don't remember you asking for it back. She's been coming here, listening to our conversations, going through my things, learning enough about our lives to impersonate me convincingly. Chloe. Marcus reached for my hands, but I pulled away. You don't believe me either. I want to believe you. But this story keeps getting more complicated. First it was just about the job interview, then the loans. Now she's supposedly infiltrating every aspect of your life. She is. Then why haven't I ever seen her? If she's been coming to our apartment, using your identity around town, dating someone in Seattle who thinks she's you, where is the evidence? Because she's careful. Because she's been planning this for months, maybe years. Marcus stood up, started pacing. Or because you're having a psychological break, and none of this is real. The room went silent except for the hum of our refrigerator. You think I'm crazy. I think you're under tremendous stress. I think losing your job was traumatic, and maybe you're processing that trauma by creating this narrative where you're the victim of an elaborate conspiracy instead of just unlucky. I stared at my fiancé, the man I'd planned to marry, and realized Emily had won. She'd isolated me so completely that even the person who loved me most thought I was delusional. If I'm crazy, I said quietly, then prove it. Help me prove it.
How?
Come with me to Seattle. Meet David, Emily's boyfriend. See her apartment. Look at the photos of her pretending to be me. Marcus hesitated. Chloe, one trip. If I'm making all this up, if Emily isn't living a fake life as me, then I'll get help. I'll see a therapist, take medication, whatever you think I need. He studied my face for a long moment. And if you're right, if everything you've told me is true, then we figure out how to stop her. Marcus was quiet for nearly a minute. Okay, he finally said. We'll go to Seattle. But I could hear the doubt in his voice. He was humoring me, giving me enough rope to hang myself with my own delusions. The irony wasn't lost on me. Emily had made my life so unbelievable that the truth sounded like a lie. The trip to Seattle was supposed to prove I was telling the truth. Instead, it proved that Emily was even more dangerous than I'd imagined. Marcus and I drove up on a Saturday morning, 3 weeks after my world had first collapsed. I'd convinced David to meet us at a coffee shop near Emily's apartment. He'd been avoiding Emily since our video call, telling her he needed space to think. She's been calling me constantly, David explained when we sat down. Sometimes she sounds like you, the woman I fell in love with. Other times she seems, he searched for words, desperate, angry, like a different person entirely. Marcus leaned forward. Have you actually seen her and Chloe together? In the same room?
No.
She always has excuses for why Chloe can't visit, why they can't video chat when I'm around. She says her sister is going through a difficult time and needs space. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a photo from last Christmas, me and Emily together at our parents' house. This is us 6 months ago. David studied the image. That's unsettling. You really are identical. Completely, Marcus said, and I could hear him processing this reality for the first time. They used to switch places as kids. Their own parents couldn't tell them apart. We walked to Emily's building together. I buzzed her apartment. David. Her voice through the intercom sounded relieved. Thank God. I've been so worried. I'm here with some friends, David interrupted. Can we come up?
A pause.
What friends? Just buzz us up. Another longer pause. Then the door clicked open. She was waiting in the hallway when we reached the 3rd floor. When she saw me, her face went through a series of micro-expressions, surprise, calculation, then a mask of confused concern. Chloe. She looked between me and Marcus. What are you doing here? David, what's going on?
We need to talk, I said.
All of us, David added. Emily's apartment looked different than it had during my first visit. The photos on the mantel had been rearranged, some hidden, others positioned to be more visible. She'd been preparing for this confrontation. I don't understand what's happening, Emily said, settling onto her couch. Chloe, you look upset. Are you okay? It was masterful. She sounded genuinely concerned, like a loving sister worried about my well-being. Marcus was watching her. Carefully. Emily, we're here because Chloe believes you've been impersonating her. Impersonating her? Emily laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. That's crazy. David, what did you tell them? I told them about the phone call. About someone claiming to be the real Chloe Martinez. Emily looked at me with what appeared to be genuine confusion. Chloe, honey, what's going on? You're scaring me.
Stop it, I said.
Just stop. Marcus is here. David is here. You can drop the act. What act? She turned to Marcus, her voice breaking slightly. Marcus, what is she talking about? Is she having another episode? My blood went cold. Another episode? Emily bit her lip like she'd said too much. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have, but you've been calling me at all hours, saying things that don't make sense. Accusing me of things I'd never do. I've been so worried about you. What things? Marcus asked, his voice tight. She called me last week screaming that I'd stolen her identity, that I was living her life. She said I was dating her boyfriend. Emily gestured to David, which doesn't even make sense because David and I met at a networking event in Seattle. She said I'd gotten her fired, but her boss called me asking if she was okay because she'd been missing work and acting erratic. That's not what happened, isn't it? Emily's eyes filled with tears. Chloe, I love you. You're my twin sister. But ever since you lost your job, you've been different. Paranoid. Making up these elaborate stories. Marcus was looking at me now, that careful medical expression back on his face. Show them the photos, I said desperately. The ones of you pretending to be me at company events. Emily looked genuinely puzzled. What photos? I walked to the mantle where I'd seen them before. The photos were different now. Pictures of Emily at what looked like genuine social events, but nothing that screamed corporate function or stolen identity. These aren't the same photos that were here before. Chloe, Emily said gently, you've only been to my apartment once, and you were very upset that day. Maybe you misremembered. David was studying both of us. The woman I've been dating, she told me her name was Chloe Martinez. She said she worked in marketing in Portland before moving here. Because that's what I told her about my life. I turned to him desperately. She's been studying me for years, learning everything about my career, my relationships. But Chloe, Emily interrupted, I got my job here through a recruiting agency. I can show you the paperwork. And I never claimed to be you. I applied as Emily Martinez. My own name. She walked to a desk and pulled out a folder. Inside were employment documents, all bearing her name. Emily Martinez, not Chloe. But the HR manager said. Said what? Marcus asked. I tried to remember the exact conversation. The HR manager had mentioned identity fraud, forged signatures, but had she specifically said Emily had used my name?
Or had I assumed that?
David, I said, turning to him. What name is on your lease together? We're not living together. Emily has her own place. He looked confused. And I don't know why you'd think we were living together. The room started spinning. Either Emily was an even more sophisticated liar than I'd thought, or... The loans, I said weakly. The credit cards. Emily, you took out loans in my name. Loans? She looked at Marcus. What loans? I pulled out my phone, showed her the bank statements. Emily studied them, her brow furrowed. Chloe, these applications, they have your address, but look at the signature. She was right. The signature on the digital forms was similar to mine, but not identical. And the employment verification listed a company I'd never heard of. Someone did steal your identity, Emily said slowly. But it wasn't me. Have you considered that maybe someone else is using both of our information? Someone who knows us both. Marcus took the papers from my hands. Chloe, when did you first notice these fraudulent charges? After I got fired. After the interview incident. And when did the interview incident happen? The day I stopped. The day Emily was supposed to have impersonated me. But if she'd applied for jobs under her own name, if David knew her as Emily Martinez, if the apartment photos didn't show what I remembered. Chloe, Emily said gently, I think someone else is doing this to both of us. Someone who has access to our personal information and is using our identical appearance to commit fraud. She walked to her kitchen and returned with a folder. I've been getting strange bills too. Credit cards I didn't apply for, services I didn't sign up for. I thought maybe it was just identity theft, but what if someone is systematically targeting both of us? Marcus was reading through Emily's documents. These show fraudulent activity on her accounts too, starting around the same time as yours. I felt the ground shifting under my feet. But the interview, someone impersonated me at the interview. Are you sure? Emily asked. Or did someone call in sick for you, and then show up anyway? Someone who looked like us but wasn't either of us. That's impossible. We're identical twins. There's no third person who looks exactly like us. Emily and Marcus exchanged a look. Chloe, Marcus said carefully, identical twins run in families. Genetic predisposition. Has your mother ever mentioned other pregnancies? Other twins. The world tilted. What are you saying? Emily sat down beside me. What if we have a sister we don't know about? A triplet who was separated at birth or adopted out. It would explain everything, someone with our exact DNA, our appearance, but no legal identity of her own. I stared at my twin sister, at my fiancé, at David who'd been caught in the middle of this insanity. You think there's a third me running around destroying both our lives? I think, Emily said quietly, we need to call Mom and Dad and ask them some very difficult questions. But even as she said it, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being manipulated, that Emily was still lying, just more cleverly than before. The truth was I no longer knew what was real and what wasn't, and that terrified me more than any conspiracy. The phone call with my parents shattered what remained of my reality. We were back in Portland, sitting around my kitchen table with the speakerphone between us. Emily had driven down with Marcus and me after our Seattle confrontation, claiming she was just as confused and scared as I was. Mom, I said carefully, we need to ask you something important about our birth. Your birth. My mother's voice crackled through the speaker. Honey, what's this about? Marcus squeezed my hand. Mrs. Martinez, were Chloe and Emily the only babies born that day? A long silence. Too long. Why would you ask that? Because, Emily said, leaning toward the phone, we think someone who looks exactly like us has been committing identity fraud. Someone who looks like you? My father's voice joined the call. Girls, that's impossible. Identical twins are rare enough. Dad, please, I interrupted. Just answer the question. Were there complications during the birth? Anything unusual? Another pause. I could hear muffled conversation, my parents talking to each other with hands over the phone. When my mother came back on the line, her voice was different.
Strained.
There's something we never told you. My heart stopped. You were actually born as triplets. The room went silent. Emily grabbed the edge of the table. The third baby, your sister, she was smaller. Much smaller. The doctors didn't think she would survive the first few days. She was transferred to a specialized NICU at another hospital. What happened to her? Emily whispered. She lived, but... My mother was crying now. The medical bills were devastating. We were young, barely able to support ourselves, let alone 3 babies with one requiring constant medical care. And the doctors said she might have developmental issues, learning disabilities. Mom, I said, my voice hollow. What did you do? We made the hardest decision of our lives. We placed her for adoption. A family specifically looking for a special needs child. We thought she'd have a better life with them. I felt like I was floating above my own body, watching this conversation happen to someone else. What was her name? We called her Elena.
Elena Maria Martinez. Elena.
Our third sister. Our identical triplet who'd been given away when we were too young to remember. Do you know what happened to her? The family who adopted her. We lost touch. It was a closed adoption. But my father cleared his throat. We got a letter about 10 years ago from a social worker. Elena had aged out of the foster system. Apparently the first family couldn't handle her needs, and she'd been moved several times. The social worker was trying to locate biological family for medical history purposes. Foster system? Emily's voice was sharp. You said she was adopted by a family that wanted her. That's what we thought. The social worker said the adoptive family returned her to the state when she was 4. Said she was too difficult to manage. I closed my eyes, imagining a 4-year-old version of myself being abandoned by the only family she'd known. Did you respond to the social worker? We were scared. We had built a life, had you girls settled in school. We thought it would be too disruptive, too painful for everyone. So you ignored it, I said. We made a choice we thought was best for our family. Marcus was taking notes on a legal pad. Do you remember the social worker's name? The agency? I think I still have the letter somewhere. Your father keeps everything. We need it, Emily said. All of it. Any information you have about Elena or the adoption. After we hung up, the 3 of us sat in stunned silence. A triplet, I finally said. We have a sister who's been living her entire life knowing she was abandoned by her birth family. A sister who looks exactly like us, Emily added. Who probably has no legitimate identity documents, no stable family history, no support system. A sister who might blame us for the life she didn't get to have, Marcus concluded. I thought about Elena, somewhere out there, watching Emily and me live the life she'd been denied. Seeing us graduate college while she aged out of foster care. Watching us get jobs, relationships, stability, while she had nothing. She's not just stealing our identities, I realized. She's taking the lives she thinks should have been hers. Emily nodded slowly. If she's been watching us, studying us, she'd know everything about our routines, our friends, our careers. She'd know how to be us better than we know how to be ourselves. But how is she getting access to our personal information? Our apartments, our voicemails? Marcus looked up from his notes. Foster kids learn to survive. They learn to lie, to manipulate systems, to become invisible when they need to. If Elena's been planning this for years, she could have established surveillance, maybe even gotten jobs that gave her access to your personal data. The pieces started clicking together. The weird feeling I'd had sometimes that someone had been in my apartment. The way Emily's voicemails always seemed to arrive when I wasn't home. The detailed knowledge of our conversations, our relationships. She's been watching both of us, I said. For years. Learning our patterns, our voices, our mannerisms. And when she was ready, she started taking pieces of our lives. A job here, a relationship there, some credit cards, some loans. Emily stood up and started pacing. But why now? What triggered her to escalate? I thought about the timeline. My promotion opportunity. The big interview that would have changed my career trajectory. She couldn't stand watching you succeed when she'd been denied every opportunity. But she didn't just want to stop my success. She wanted to take it for herself. Marcus looked between us. The question is, how do we find her? I grabbed my laptop. The same way she found us. We research. Over the next 6 hours, we built a profile of Elena Martinez. Using the limited information from my parents and some aggressive internet searching, we found fragments of her life. Foster care records, juvenile court documents, a few employment records under various names. The picture that emerged was heartbreaking and terrifying. Elena had been moved between 12 different foster homes before aging out at 18. She'd been arrested twice as a minor, once for shoplifting, once for what the record called identity fraud, involving a school enrollment under a false name. After 18, she'd worked a series of temporary jobs: house sitting, pet sitting, housekeeping, administrative assistant positions. All jobs that would give her access to people's homes and personal information. Look at this, Marcus said, pointing at the screen. 6 months ago, she worked for a property management company that handles apartment maintenance and security. My building uses that company, I said. So does mine, Emily added. Elena had legitimately accessed our apartments, legally copied our keys, lawfully entered our spaces while we were at work. She'd had months to study our lives, photograph our documents, learn our routines. She's not just our sister, I realized. She's our stalker. She's been preparing to become us for months, maybe years. Emily stared at a photo we'd found from a court document. Elena at 16, looking exactly like us but with hollow, angry eyes. How do we stop someone who knows everything about us but operates completely outside the law? We do what she's been doing to us, I said. We study her. We learn her patterns. And we turn her own game against her. Marcus closed the laptop. This isn't just identity theft anymore. This is psychological warfare. And she has a 26-year head start on learning how to fight dirty. I looked at my twin sister, seeing my own face reflected back at me, knowing that somewhere out there was a third version of us who wanted to destroy everything we had. Then we'd better learn fast. I hit rock bottom on a Tuesday morning in November. I woke up to find my bank account completely drained, negative $400. My credit cards were maxed out with purchases I'd never made, expensive electronics shipped to addresses I'd never heard of, luxury hotel stays in cities I'd never visited, even a lease on a BMW in San Francisco under my name. But the real breaking point came when I found the eviction notice taped to my door. Failure to pay rent for 3 consecutive months, it read. I stared at the paper, my hands shaking. I'd paid my rent. I had the receipts, the canceled checks. But according to my landlord's records, no payments had been received since August. Marcus found me sitting on our bathroom floor, sobbing over bank statements and legal documents. She cleaned me out, I whispered. Elena. She took everything. We'll figure this out, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. We'd been figuring it out for weeks with no progress. Elena was a ghost. Every lead we followed went nowhere. The property management company had no record of an Elena Martinez ever working for them. The addresses we'd found led to vacant lots or businesses that had never heard of her. Even her foster care records seemed to have been sanitized, key pages missing, contact information outdated. Marcus, I can't live like this anymore. Looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next disaster.
She's
not just stealing my money, she's stealing my sanity. That afternoon, my mother called. Chloe, honey, I just got the strangest visit from the police. My stomach dropped. What did they want?
They were asking about you.
Apparently, someone filed a report claiming you'd been harassing them, making threats. They had recordings of phone calls that sounded exactly like your voice. Mom, I never. I know, sweetheart. That's what I told them. But they played me one of the recordings and honey, it really sounded like you. Not just your voice, but your speech patterns, your expressions. It was uncanny. Elena wasn't just impersonating me anymore. She was actively framing me for crimes. Did they say who filed the report? A woman named Sarah Chen. She claimed you'd been calling her workplace, threatening to expose some kind of affair she was having with her boss.
I didn't know any Sarah Chen.
But the name Chen. David's last name was Chen. Mom, did they give you any other details? An address, a phone number? Just that she lives in Seattle and works for some tech company. After I hung up, I called David immediately. Do you have any relatives named Sarah? I asked without preamble. My sister. Why? She filed a police report against me for harassment. That's impossible. Sarah doesn't even know you exist. I never told my family about any of this. David, I need her phone number. 20 minutes later, I was talking to Sarah Chen, who was as confused as everyone else in this nightmare. Someone's been calling my office for weeks, she explained. Always early in the morning, before I get to work. Leaving voicemails that sound professional at first, then get increasingly threatening. The caller claims I'm having an affair with my married boss and says she has evidence that could destroy both our careers. What kind of evidence? Photos, supposedly, of me and him at business dinners, conferences. The thing is, the photos she's describing are real. I have attended work events with my boss. But they're completely innocent. Professional networking. The caller is twisting innocent interactions into something sinister. Did you recognize the voice? No, but my coworker did. She said it sounded exactly like her ex-roommate from college, a marketing professional from Portland named Chloe Martinez. My head started spinning. Your coworker knew me? Apparently you two lived together junior year. Jennifer Walsh? She said you were roommates at State? Jennifer Walsh. I remembered her. Quiet pre-med student, studied constantly, barely spoke to me the entire semester we shared a dorm room. Sarah, this is going to sound crazy, but the person calling you isn't me. It's someone impersonating me using my voice and personal history. How is that possible? I don't know, but I need to talk to Jennifer. Can you give me her contact information? An hour later, I was on the phone with Jennifer Walsh, now Dr. Jennifer Walsh, working at a hospital in Sacramento. Chloe Martinez, she said when I identified myself. I was wondering when you'd call. You were expecting me to call? After what happened last month, yes. What happened last month? There was a pause. The interview. My blood went cold. What interview? For the position here. You applied to be our new marketing coordinator. You interviewed beautifully, got the job, then never showed up for your first day. When we tried to contact you, the phone number on your application was disconnected. Jennifer, I never applied for a job at your hospital. I don't even know where you work. That's that's not possible. I personally walked you through the building, introduced you to the staff. We talked about our time as roommates, about your twin sister Emily, about your fiancé Marcus. Elena had gotten another job using my identity, but this time, she'd researched the interviewer's connection to me and used it to make the impersonation more believable. Jennifer, what did I look like during the interview? Like you always looked. Same height, same voice, same mannerisms. Although, she paused. You seemed more confident than I remembered. More polished. I actually thought to myself that college had really helped you come out of your shell. Did I provide references? Yes, and we called them. Previous employers gave glowing reviews. Your college professors remembered you fondly. Everything checked out. Elena had created an entire professional mythology for me, complete with fake references who vouched for achievements I'd never accomplished. Jennifer, the person you interviewed, wasn't me. It was someone impersonating me. Chloe, that's impossible. I lived with you for 8 months. I know your voice, your face, your... Did I mention anything about my childhood? Specific memories we might have shared? Well, no, but we were focused on your professional qualifications. What about the scar on my left hand? From when I burned it on the dormitory radiator? There was a long silence. I don't remember seeing a scar. Elena might look exactly like me, but she didn't have my scars, my birthmarks, the small physical imperfections that made me unique. Jennifer, I need you to think carefully. Was there anything about me during that interview that seemed off? Anything at all? Now that you mention it. She was quiet for a moment. Your laugh was different. Harder somehow. And when I mentioned your sister Emily, you got this strange look in your eyes. Like you were angry about something. Elena wasn't just impersonating me. She was channeling her rage at the life she'd been denied, and that rage was bleeding through her performance. After I hung up, I sat in my car outside the coffee shop where I'd taken the call, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Elena had my face, my voice, my mannerisms. She'd studied my relationships, my history, my professional background. She could fool people who'd known me for years. But she couldn't replicate the physical evidence of my actual lived experience. The scars, the subtle differences in posture from a childhood gymnastics injury, the way my voice cracked slightly when I was nervous, details only someone who'd lived in my body would know. I called Marcus. I know how to catch her, I said.
How?
We're going to give her exactly what she wants. A chance to be me in front of people who know me intimately. People who'll notice when she gets the details wrong. Chloe, that sounds dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. But for the first time in weeks, I have a plan. I looked at myself in the mirror again, seeing not just my own reflection but the ghost of Elena, angry, desperate, convinced she deserved the life I'd been given by accident of birth order. It's time to meet my sister.